Welcome to the Getting Started with PASS Reports Stage 1 training video. The content of this video is aimed at either first-time PASS users or for those of you who would like to feel more confident in using PASS data. Please ensure that PASS has been administered prior to watching this video and that you have a copy of your PASS report in front of you in PDF format, either on screen or on paper. PASS, which stands for Pupil Attitudes to Self and School, is a wellbeing survey that is designed to be administered to all students within your school, particularly those aged 7 and above. PASS measures student attitudes towards their school context and also towards themselves as learners, so it provides a lens that you may not otherwise have into your students' attitudes. PASS can be administered from age 4 and above, but whatever the age of students you administer it to, it should be a whole cohort who are surveyed. It is not designed for individual use. PASS identifies issues that could be getting in the way of a student reaching their full potential and identifies invisible groups within your school, such as fragile learners, which is students who are able but who do not think of themselves as able students. Once issues have been identified, PASS can help in monitoring the impact of any wellbeing intervention programs so that programs can be evaluated and interventions refined as needed. There are 9 factors measured by the PASS survey, starting with Factor 1, feelings about school. This explores whether a student feels they belong to or are alienated from their learning community. A low score in this measure can indicate feelings of social exclusion and/or potential bullying. Factor 2, perceived learning capability. This offers a snapshot of a student's unfolding impressions of self-efficacy and can reveal early warning signs of demoralisation and disaffection. Factor 3, self-regard as a learner. This is equivalent to self-worth. This measure is focused quite specifically on learning and shows a strong correlation with achievement. Factor 4, preparedness for learning. This is highly correlated with students at risk of behavioural difficulties. This measure explores whether a student feels they have the tools in place to learn. It covers areas such as study skills, attentiveness, and concentration. Factor 5, attitudes to teachers. This provides an invaluable insight into a student's perception of the relationship that they have with school staff. Factor 6, general work ethic. This highlights students' aspirations and motivation to succeed in life. This is the first of 2 motivational measures. It focuses on purpose and direction, not just at school, but beyond as well. Factor 7, confidence in learning. This identifies a student's ability to persevere when faced with a challenge, so is a good measure of resilience. Factor 8, attitudes to attendance. Depending on the context of your international school, you may not see absences, as students are likely to be brought to school by their parents or a carer, or perhaps be in boarding facilities. However, this measure will give you an indication of whether students sees the need for being at school and whether they want to be at school. And Factor 9, response to curriculum demands. This is the second motivational measure, focusing more narrowly on school-based motivation to undertake and complete curriculum-based tasks. Please now go to your PASS PDF report, either on paper or on screen, and look at the Level 1 page, which gives you an overview of the percentages and percentiles of your students overall. It should look similar to what you can see on screen. At this level of the reporting, the data is showing you the top-line view of your students, and you can see the summary broken down by factor. The percentages data table shows scores relative to the maximally positive response to a question. So if all students, for example, had selected the most positive response option across all statements that feed into this dataset, then the score would be 100%. These are non-standardised scores. These scores enable comparison across time within a school. The table below shows the school's standardised scores in percentile rank form. In the example shown for Factor 1, the percentage score of 73.9% puts this cohort into the 55th percentile, meaning that they're equally as or more positive than 55.2% of the population on that measure, but less positive than 44.8%. As you look through your report, you'll see that it drills down into more detail with each level of the report, and you can see the data through a range of different lenses. In Level 2, you can review the data by gender, by year group, by ethnicity or nationality, this depends on the data that you input when uploading the student records, by year and gender, and by ethnic group and nationality and gender. This can all help in identifying trends in the school or pockets of students where intervention is needed or attitudes are particularly positive, which is important to identify too. The Level 3 of the reporting is individual student data. This is where students are named so you can see the percentile scores for each factor for each student. It's important to look at the students where there are a large amount of green scores as well as those students whose scores give cause for concern. The scores are colour-coded. Here's an example of an individual student's data. We can see that Sean has a number of relatively high scores, so he's a student who has a feeling of self-worth and regards himself as a capable learner. This is coupled with a high score in Factor 9 response to curriculum demands, so he feels positively about the school curriculum, the lessons he's receiving, and the style of teaching that he receives. He feels like it works for him. However, looking at the Factor 4 preparedness for learning score, he doesn't feel like he possesses the learning skills that he needs. So he may benefit from support in independent study skills, strategies to aid concentration, note-taking, revision, for example, mind maps, and so on. Factor 1 suggests that Sean does not feel that he belongs in the school. This is an example of how critical it is to review past data with other data and information that you have about your students. Does he have a friendship group? Is Sean involved in any activities within the school? This could be another area where he could be supported. And finally, Factor 8 data suggests that Sean does not have a positive attitude to attendance at school. He may have good attendance figures at school, but this data flags up that he's at risk of truancy. Or if that's not an option due to the context of your school, then it's a clear message that he doesn't enjoy coming to school. The next stage for students with a number of concerning scores on PASS is to formulate an action plan. To support you in developing action plans for groups down to individuals, we would recommend that you access the Intervention Toolkit. This is available through the TestWise platform at testingforschools.com. That's the platform that you use to administer the PASS survey. The Intervention Toolkit has a comprehensive range of suggestions about how to work with the data and students and a bank of recommended strategies to employ. Of course, some strategies will work with some students and not others, but they're an excellent starting point for developing your action plan. The Intervention Toolkit is of course no substitute for collaboration with colleagues as well, and ensuring that experiences are shared. We'd also recommend resurveying some students after 12 or so weeks to monitor progress and gain a view on whether the interventions that have been implemented have had a positive effect on the student. Some examples of the level of advice given on the Intervention Toolkit can be seen here. These range from whole school to class to individual level strategies. Thank you for completing your Stage 1 PASS training. Hopefully you feel more confident in understanding your PASS data than you did a few minutes ago. We recommend that you sign up for free Stage 2 training as a next step. This consists of a 1-hour recorded webinar which you can work through at a convenient time. Thanks for listening today. Please do get in touch with any questions at international@gl-education.com.